Today on the Dr. Jeff Show, we have special guest Dr. Robi Ludwig joining Dr. Jeff to talk about the hot trending topic that can affect you, sexual harassment in the workplace. Hello, everyone. I'm Shane Schultz, and you're watching the Zubia Live channel. Zubia Live is your interactive live streaming video community specializing in health and wellness topics that affect you. You can always find us on social media at Zubia Live or ZubiaLive.com. Today, we're very excited to introduce to you our new show, The Dr. Jeff Show, hosted by none other than Dr. Jeff Gardere. Dr. Jeff is a board-certified psychologist and is well known in the entertainment industry as well as his community. Dr. Jeff, it's great to see you today.
Hello all and welcome to the show. Shane, thank you so very much for that great introduction. Hey folks, we want to hear your voice, your thoughts, your questions on today's topic. So make sure you post your comments on Facebook or Twitter at Zubia Live or email me at drjeff@zubialive.com. That's Dr. Jeff at ZUBIALIVE.com. Later in our broadcast, I'll tell you about our exciting companion show. It's called Up Close and Personal Workshops with yours truly, me, Dr. Jeff Gardere, which airs every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Today, along with my very special guest, Dr. Robi Ludwig, we really want to explore a topic that has been exploding in the news. We're talking about those sexual scandals that have rocked the film and media industry. Top producers and actors, super powerful and respected and beloved media icons have come crashing down. Now, we don't need to go into details and names, and unless you've been living under a rock, you know what's been happening. But let's get real, folks. This phenomena of using power, especially as men, to take advantage of others in a sexual and predatory manner, taking advantage of those who don't have the power. You know this is age old. This has been happening forever, and it happens not just in Hollywood, but also in every line of business, every line of work, on every stage, if you will, from the Vatican to Washington to even your local grocery store. This means that this predatory behavior is not affecting people just in high places only. It's affecting all of us. Me, you, the folks who are listening in and joining us for today's program. Now, Cosmopolitan surveyed over 2,200 full-time and part-time female employees and found that 1 in 3 women, that's right, you heard me say it, 1 in 3 women have experienced sexual harassment at work at some point in their lives. So, maybe you're working somewhere and your boss won't give you a raise or promotion unless you promise to do something with him or her against your will or of a sexual nature, right? Or maybe it's really already happened to you and you feel violated, disgusted, despondent, and powerless and have no one to turn to or to talk to. Well, guess what? You can talk to us. Joining me today for our inaugural show is the one and only Dr. Robi Ludwig. Now, Dr. Ludwig is an award-winning reporter and author. Her most recent book is Your Best Age Now. She is a psychotherapist and a national TV commentator and host. And you may have seen her on the Today Show, HLN, or Fox News, where she frequently analyzes the news of the day. She's also now hosting her own Facebook Live show called Talking Live with, you know it, Dr. Robi Ludwig, out of Star Shop Studio in Midtown, and she interviews some of the most prominent voices of today. She's passionate about inspiring others, as she will do with you today. She is very serious about living her best age right now. So please welcome Dr. Robi Ludwig. So, Dr. Robi, the experts say that sexual harassment can be seen as unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature. Now, how do you see this being portrayed with perhaps some of the patients that you work with in your private practice?
I suppose I've been fortunate in the fact that not too many patients have presented with this issue or problem. I did work with somebody who happened to date somebody in the workplace who was very powerful. And when the relationship went sour, he became very sadistic and started to turn people against her, which interfered with her ability to actually work. And it's kind of that dangerous territory, because in some ways you can meet a lot of really interesting people at work who are date appropriate, right? And it's that fine line sometimes of knowing who's going to turn on you. So sometimes the signs are very, very subtle. And anyone who's willing to, let's say, date in the workplace may also have to be willing to leave the workplace if things get too complex.
Yeah, and I often say, sure, the workplace is where you can meet someone with some of the same goals, compatibility to you.
Mm-hmm.
I have to tell you that my personal rule on that is, if you're going to risk dating someone at the workplace, number one, make sure that it's not a subordinate, because it can turn into that situation that you talked about.
Yeah.
Two, you probably better marry them. You better make it for keeps.
Yeah, you better have that sense. There was an interesting question that comes up, because I met my husband at work, and I worked at a hospital. There was a lot of dating and flirting. It was a fun social place. I mean, that's one of the advantages of working at a hospital. So what do you do, let's say, if you are in a position of having the position of the boss, or you are asking out a subordinate? It's kind of that one and done philosophy. You ask somebody out on a date, and if they are not interested, then you back away. And so you have to be willing to know when someone's not interested and to let it go, because otherwise it can be taken as harassment.
Yeah, and I agree with you 1,000,000%. And I think it also goes back to that situation that sometimes you have to make the sacrifices. If it's someone where you are the boss, that situation can go in any direction. So it's something that maybe you should forego. Perhaps if you're no longer working with that person, then you can revisit that. But as a supervisor, and I think you might agree, it's probably the golden rule not to try to date someone who they're your subordinate. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say as a general rule, yes, it's best to honor the boundaries. Boundaries exist, not from a moral perspective, Dr. Jeff. They really exist to protect us and to protect other people. So if you are kind of following the appropriate rules, then most likely you're not going to get in trouble, right? If you don't ask somebody out at work, they're probably not going to accuse you of sexual harassment. If you're not talking about sexually inappropriate ideas or fantasies or sharing inappropriate pictures, you're following appropriate boundaries, you're not going to be accused of sexual harassment. But once you cross those lines, or even worse, when you have a person who abuses their position of power in order to get what they want sexually, that's when you're getting into dangerous territory. And you also have to remember, and I'm sure you know this in working with patients, as therapists, we don't touch patients. We try to put everything into words.
Right.
We share less rather than more. And the reasoning behind that is because you never know how someone will take what you say until you know them better.
And I agree with you. Your point was so cogent. When we talk about not touching patients, and I think it's the same situation, right? With if you're a supervisor, you accept that position of being a boss. Even if you are the nicest person in the world, male or female, along with that position of authority, and we're giving this advice to people, along with that position of authority, you have to give up any of those desires to date someone who works below you. You have to not be able to give in to those impulses. It's like my being a professor, at a medical school, and I'm the nicest person in the world. If I were a single person, I can't date a medical student, no matter how much I may feel that that person is not being taken advantage of. When you are in that position of authority, you cannot exercise any kind of behavior towards someone who is your subordinate?
Well, that's an excellent point too, because once you are in a position of power, the person who is your subordinate doesn't really have equal rights, right? They're not on an even playing field. It's not like Match.com.
Right.
Where two people are going in to date, or ourtime.com, where people are going in there and saying we are in an even playing field. So once you are a professor or supervisor or a boss, then the person that you're asking who's underneath you doesn't have the same power.
That's right.
And may feel, especially if they're vulnerable, if they're going through a transition, if they're insecure, if they have a loss in their life, if they're lonely, they may feel that they have to say yes to certain questions or certain invitations because they don't have any other option. I would recommend that everybody look over their employee handbook for what sexual harassment is, both bosses and people who start a new position, because everybody should know what their rights are.
Yeah, I agree. And certainly this is what we're talking about with regard to boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about. And how perhaps people can avoid these situations before they turn into a problem at the work site. So what we're advising people to do, Dr. Robi and I, is first of all, if you're going to date at the workplace, it better be for keeps. It shouldn't be a thing of, well, this is my personal fiefdom, or this is my playground, and this is where I'm going to be dating folks, because there's so much that you can lose. Secondly, in dating someone who is either your subordinate or someone who is your boss, that also lends to a potential for problems, especially when it comes to, for example, if the relationship is not working out. Even if you've had a very wonderful relationship with that subordinate or with the boss, things kind of get nasty. We look at relationship insanity disorder, right?
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, temporary relationship insanity disorder, TRID. This is where things really go south and people start acting out. But I want to ask you in our limited time, Dr. Robi, what are some of the subtle signs someone, and let's say in this case, a woman, since we know that statistics show overwhelmingly it's women rather than men who get sexually harassed, though it does happen to men also. What are some of the very subtle warning signs that there may be a potential issue or an issue with someone who may be acting out their power on someone who has less power?
Well, the first thing I would say is here's where gossip can come in really handy. You want to listen for who has a bad reputation. And because usually, I mean, the upside of gossip is that we could learn what's going on in our community, and we could always make your own personal assessments, but sometimes, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire, and to just be aware that certain people have a reputation for a reason. You always want to check it out yourself, but, you know, listen to what your community is saying about the various workers. So that's number one. Number two, use your intuition. If you feel uncomfortable with a request, don't do it. Find a way to segue out of an uncomfortable situation. Some of the subtle signs with master manipulators is it's too much too soon. So if you have somebody who is in a power position, who all of a sudden acts like they know you, wants to spend special time with you alone after hours, acts like they're your best friend and what they're doing is in your best interest, they could be playing and manipulating you into something much, much more. And basically the manipulator has a sense of who they are manipulating. They know that their person that they're manipulating wants something. They either want success, they want to avoid failure. So they really do play to that. And they either suggest that they can offer success or they insinuate that they could bring you down. But it's those subtle signs of too much too soon, a lot of time together at inappropriate times, suggesting they know you better, giving advice that may or may not be valid. Those are subtle flags that women should be aware of.
And how does a woman, and it could be a man too, of course, but how does a woman try to fend off those particular sorts of aggressive behaviors or potential or actual manipulations without getting in trouble, without losing her job. Because in cases, we found that a lot of people said, hey, this was a real problem. I wanted to get away from this person, but I felt that I was going to lose my job.
Right. So I think one of the things to do is know who you're dealing with. Maybe there's a way to deal with it with a sense of humor initially, saying, oh, come on, you really don't mean that, or maybe self-deprecating humor as a way to sidestep or let the person know that they've chosen the wrong person to target.
I love that.
Yeah. So, that can make it light and fun and not humiliate the other person so they feel they need to retaliate.
Yes.
The other thing you can do is say, I'm really not comfortable with where this conversation is going.
Yeah.
Because it's sometimes possible that the person who is the sexual harasser, they think that the other person welcomes their attention, wants their attention, and they confuse their power with personal magnetism, which is not the case. And if somebody continues to persist, you could always say, would you be comfortable if this conversation were recorded and everybody heard what you said to me? Kind of putting somebody on warning and notice. How comfortable are you with what you're doing? And you can go to human resources, which many lawyers will recommend. You go and you document it to human resources. But if you have a family situation, let's say it's a family-owned company, or the boss is in charge of the whole company, going to human resources puts them in conflict, right? Realistically, we live in an imperfect world. Then you may want to consult a lawyer and find out about an independent arbiter. Somebody who can independently make an assessment, or encourage people in the workplace with you to back you up, basically, in saying that what they see and what they hear, they're in agreement with you, it's not appropriate. But I would go through trying to joke it off first, because there are subtle messages you can give that the smart manipulator might be able to take, and then move on to somebody else who they can get over on.
And so when we look at the personalities, and I'm asking this because someone steps into the workplace, they may not know about the gossip, they may not know about the information on this person, they may not know that work culture, but is there, or are there some very subtle signs in that person's personality that can tell someone that this person, there's something not there, there's something not working, the lights are on, but no one's home, and this person can be a master manipulator? I would think one thing, they're very narcissistic. They love opera because it's all about me, 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 me.
Yes, so funny. I think when somebody talks with a grand ego, they kind of bolster themselves up. They tend to be self-focused. If they perhaps have a rage problem sometimes, where they like to intimidate other people, you can hear the stories they say about their lives, right? That is a wonderful way to get access into who somebody is. What do they tell you about themselves? What do they want you to know about themselves? If they tell
everything, right?
Especially what?
If it's everything.
Yes.
No matter what the story is, it always goes back to them.
And in a grand way, people want them. Nobody says no to them. They've had so many relationships and they just get rid of people, or whatever the case may be. If you hear that they have a negativistic feeling towards women or past relationships, what is their relationship like with family, with friends? So these are things that women can listen out for to get a sense of who a person is, because sometimes it takes a long time to know who someone is versus who they say they are.
If you see something, say something.
Say something, and try to say it in a way that protects the person's ego.
Yes.
First, and see if that works. Because you always want to try the least damaging intervention possible.
Right, because you don't want to make that enemy. So, Dr. Robi, when it comes to the workplace, how does someone compliment a coworker without getting themselves in trouble, without offending, without being inappropriate, without even coming close to anything that looks like sexual harassment?
a lot of that has to do with who the person is, who the person you're complimenting is. So if you have the right relationship, you can almost say anything to them, right? Like, Jeff, you and I have a long-term friendship. We've known each other a long time. We could practically say anything to each other because we know where it's coming from and we have that kind of friendship. So you could probably say anything to me and I've probably said anything to you, and we're okay because we have the right relationship. So first of all, know who you're saying it to.
That's great.
Because we don't want to miss out on the feel good in the workplace, which is appreciating other people's beauty and sexuality, if you will. So know who you're doing it to. And if somebody says, I'm not comfortable with that, respect it and move on.
Or if you see it in their body, right?
Right.
Body language, and if they close up, if you say, hey, those are really nice shoes or something, and the person is
right.
Don't do it.
Read it. Read the person that you're complimenting. And if you get the sense that they're not comfortable, they're not interested, they don't like that kind of interaction, respect that and don't do it.
Excellent. Excellent. Robi, that was a tremendous amount and very concise information. I hope that folks were really taking notes because your strategies were amazing for us to try to have a sexual harassment-free workplace. And by the way, Dr. Robi Ludwig, where can people find you? I know they'll have follow-up questions for you.
Oh, great. So, I'm on Twitter at Dr. Robi Ludwig, and you can find me on Facebook at Dr. Robi Ludwig, and Talking Live, which is also a show I do on Facebook on Mondays at 6. And Jeff, you're joining me because you're being honored, a special honorary event. So you're going to be joining me again in December so people can find us together again. Excellent. And Mondays at 6. And I think if you Google me, you'll find me. I'm out there.
All right. Well, listen, Dr. Robi, thank you so much for joining us on Zoom.
Thank you.
In the Dr. Jeff Show, and we'll be seeing you soon. Thank you.
Well, congratulations on your new show. I'm so thrilled for you. Mwah.
Love you. Professional.
Love you back. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so tune in at Zubia Live on Saturday at 10 a.m. for much, much more on this conversation today about the casting couch as it affects all aspects of work. And we'll be doing this on our companion show. I told you that I would tell you about this. It's called Up Close and Personal Workshops with Dr. Jeff Gardere. Now, folks, this is a pay-per-view workshop where you can interact with me for only $10 per episode. And trust me, this is a great value. Normally, my fees for these kinds of group meetings are considerably higher. Think about sort of like a group counseling. What would you pay for something like that, right? Much, much more than $10. But this is a great opportunity for us to have our more intimate conversations, again, for this very, very low price point. And in these workshops, we go into more in-depth conversation with me on the topic at hand. The audience size is going to be very limited so that we can have that intimate, interactive setting so we can get to more of your questions and more of course, the things that are affecting you. So you'll get my specific advice on your specific issues, allowing you to share empowerment strategies with our workshop group. So to register for the workshops, just follow at Zubia Live on Facebook or Twitter for more info. And you can also send questions in advance to Dr. Jeff, Jeff, no period, Dr. Jeff at ZubiaLive.com. Again, Dr. Jeff, DrJeff at ZubiaLive.com. For the rest of the year, our shows will help all of you to address the struggles you might face at different points in your life. We have some great shows coming up on how to handle the holidays. We know the stress, the sadness, seasonal affective, all of the stuff that comes along with the holidays. It's not just joyous times, but very stressful times. So we'll have a lot more on this, so you stay tuned for that. And by the way, If you have a business or a service that you would like to grow and get on the map, perhaps you'd like to be a sponsor to one of our upcoming episodes of the Dr. Jeff Show or Up Close and Personal Workshop with Dr. Jeff. It's super affordable, and believe me, we will be super effective in getting your business out there. So Dr. Jeff at ZubiaLive.com. Again, Dr. Jeff at ZubiaLive.com for more information. And don't forget, you can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Jeff Gardere, Twitter at Dr. Jeff Gardere, and Facebook, Dr. Jeff Gardere. So everyone, have a great day and an amazing week, and we'll see you soon.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jeff. We're certainly looking forward to next week's show. And if you'd like to learn more about the Dr. Jeff Show, his workshops, or the Zubia Live channel, follow us on Facebook at Zubia Live. But for now, we'd like to say thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next week.